It is 6:30 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Please stand and we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Winona City Council. Tonight, I only have one comment, just that tomorrow you should go out and vote. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. And if you are still wondering where you would vote this year, you can go to the elections page on the City of Winona website. And that's all I have for this evening. City Manager Chad Ubel.
Mayor and Council, Councilmember Borzakowski asked for staff to give an update on the roundabout project. And so I'm going to ask Brian DeFrang to come up and give a brief update on that project.
I got shocked. As we all know, the weather is turning to the worse sooner than later. So what I tell you is all subject to the weather. The roundabouts, the roundabout by Frontenac, the roundabout by Riverview are more or less paved today. The east side of the roundabout on Sarnia is paved. So worst case scenario, let's say it did shut down for winter. We've all seen the forecast for next week. It does not look good. It looked a lot better last week than it did now. Say it shuts down for winter by the end of this week. I think all three of the four roundabouts will be open. And the fourth one by Sarnia will probably be a bypass. I hope it doesn't get to that, but that's more realistic than anything. I have a meeting tomorrow with contractors at 9 to kind of find out the final game plan, because I think we're all kind of winging it at this point. So that's the best update I have for you. As you probably saw it as you came in. They got a lot of paving done, and tomorrow and Wednesday look really good for weather. Thursday is looking like rain, so who knows, but they can get a lot of paving done the next 2 days. They should have it paved all the way from the roundabout at 61 and 43 to the south or to the north. So from Sarnia to the fourth roundabout, it should be paved. The one at Sarnia is not going to probably be done. That's my honest opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Mayor and Council, nothing else for tonight.
I do have one more comment real quick. We're going to be making a change to the agenda this evening. We'll be moving item 5.2 to the beginning of the petition requests and communications. I will now ask City Clerk to take roll call.
Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilmember Young.
Here.
Moeller. Here. Alexander. Here. Biden. Here. Borzakowski.
Here.
Rapinski.
Here.
Under the required public hearings, item 2.1 is a hazardous building located at 907 East 6th Street.
For each public hearing, staff will make a short presentation. Then I will ask if anyone from the public wishes to speak to the matter. We are going to have a little bit different format than usual this evening. Each person needs to clearly state your name and address, and you'll be given up to 3 minutes to make your testimony. I will call 3 times for public comments. Once the hearing is closed, the public may not participate in the discussion by City Council. I will now open the public hearing. And I will ask Building Official Chad Summers to make a presentation on the matter.
Hello, Mayor and members of Council. I am Chad Summer, City of Winona Building Official, and I'm here to give you a brief overview of 907 East 6th, the fire damaged house. On 10/1 of 2022, a fire had started at 907 East 6th in the attic. Fire department personnel explained to the homeowner that they could not stay in the house and could not live in the garage. The reason they cannot occupy the house is due to extensive fire damage, and they cannot live in the garage as it is not a habitable space per Minnesota building code. On 10/3/2022, I received a phone number and called the owner. I told them to come up with a plan on how they're going to take care of the fire damaged house. They also told me that they will be staying in the garage, and I told them they cannot do that. They were given a number for volunteer services. On 10/5 of 2022, Wes, one of our inspectors, and I went to the house to see the damage. What we saw was rafters burned out, areas of the roof completely gone, rafters that structurally can't handle the proper loads and is no longer weather tight, as you can see in the photos that you guys received. I explained to them I would be talking to the city attorney and they need to contact us to let us know what their plan is. After our inspection, we posted the property due to extensive damage, which makes it uninhabitable. On 10/18, Randy, one of our inspectors, and I went to serve Eric Corey, the owner of the property, with a hazardous building packet. It was explained to him what is happening and that we would be bringing it to city council on November 7th. Upon our observation, we could tell they were living in the garage. He gave me permission to bring a contractor to see what it would cost to repair to make it weather tight. It would still not be habitable. It would just be weather tight. So it's still, you would not be able to live in the house. The estimate the contractor gave me to repair was $42,300. That was just a rough estimate. Based off of previous demolitions of a house that we did in town, it was about $35,000. Realtor contacted me about selling the house as is, but I have not heard anything since I received that phone call. I have talked to Eric Corey at least 5 times to explain to them what is happening, and others have spoken to them. We have not received any response from him on what he plans on to do to remedy the damage. I've spoken to county, city, volunteer services, and others to provide services to this resident. As of today, November 7th, there is no progress that has been made. While it is our last resort to do this, our department is in charge of making sure the building is safe and secure, and that this property is not. Does the council have any questions for me?
No questions from any council for staff? Okay. We'll now move on to, thank you, Chad, appreciate it. We will now move on to item number 4. Is Mr. Corey here, and or would anybody representing the property owner wish to speak on the matter?
Yes.
Could you come up to the mic, please? And we'll ask that you state your name and your address.
My name is Eric Corey. Address is 907 East Broadway. I guess my plan was to fix the house up slowly as I got money. I don't know why it has to move like so fast. It's only been a month. And, you know, they already want to take it away from me. I don't know, I've been doing heavy equipment operating construction for over 20 years, so I think I'm capable enough to either guide people or do it myself. Just as you get enough money to go enjoy it. And I'd like to tear about 80% of the damage off. So there'd only be about 5 rafters that would have to be replaced instead of 19 or whatever. It would cut the cost more than in half.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I don't know, I guess. When I live in the garage, I work in the garage a lot. And we stay from coach to coach wherever we can go. Usually leave early in the morning and come back in the afternoon. We have some cats that we're keeping in the garage. Because that's it. I guess that's it.
Okay. Do any members of council have any questions for the property owner? Steve?
Sir, have you submitted any kind of a plan, either verbally or and especially in writing, to outline how you might do this? What your plan is to complete this?
It's just the one time I talked to Chad about tearing the kitchen off. He said, write plans and turn it into the office. And my understanding is that you don't need a permit to do demo. It's just if you're adding value to the house.
That I can't speak to,
yeah.
but I don't think you were asked for a permit. You were asked to provide some sort of plan, some steps.
Yeah, I just don't. You just want me to draw a whole picture of the house without the kitchen?
No, that's not what you were asked.
Are we allowed to ask questions of staff to follow up on this here? Okay. Jay, can you talk to that a little bit? Like what?
Yes, I told Eric that we do need plans just to give us something. So we know where we're going from here, and I have not received anything. No phone call, no nothing. Did he say he wanted to take the kitchen off? That was just conversation. That's all it was. There was nothing that was ever given to me.
And I guess would removing the kitchen, I mean, what other remediation would need to be done there?
Kitchen, it goes back into the living area, and that is open to the environment. Plus there's a dormer on it. That's why the cost is so expensive, because it's not just to fix some rafters. There is a lot more that's to it, where you have to tear off the dormer to make things work the way they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm. And from my understanding, from this date, what is it, 20 days is what I read, is that right? For either some formal action to happen and or we move forward on the next steps.
I think we're going to court and all that. Mike Flaherty would have to answer that stuff.
Okay.
I can answer.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So the process, mayor and council, is the 20-day period is actually in the statute, and that's copied from the hazardous building statute, instead of chapter 463. But what that references is the number of days we have to wait after serving the order upon Mr. Corey. So if the council were to move forward and adopt the attached resolution tonight, we would have to serve it on him and then wait at least 20 days before filing it with court. And then after that, then there would be a period of time when the court schedules a hearing, and there would be a court hearing on the matter. And at the court hearing, the court would address an order to allow the city to remediate the hazards. But typically, in every case I've been involved with, and I think in this case, the court will give Mr. Corey more time at that point before the city is allowed to enter the property. So, you're looking at 20 days, about 3 weeks, plus the number of days to schedule a court hearing, plus the number of days that the court would schedule. I think in most cases, and I think in this case, if the property owner were to prepare plans and or submit some sort of proposal to the city whereby this will be taken care of, the city wouldn't file anything with court. I think the issue today is we haven't received anything and it's been 5 weeks, and I don't think the city expected or the city staff expected the issue to be resolved by today, but certainly to have some sort of communication with the property owner, some specific plan, some reasonable plan that's actually attainable. And we just haven't got that yet. So I think that's still possible, regardless if the council moves forward with the order tonight or not. But that is the time period. So typically it would take, if the council issues the order today, given the time, the 20-day period plus the time it's going to take the court to give the final order to the city, it's probably going to be 2 months or more, even 3 months before the city is given the right to enter the property to fix this up. And it would obviously be in the city's best interest if Mr. Corey would do something here to take care of the issue. But he's the property owner, so that's really up to him. And I think Chad's kind of summarized his communication with the property owner. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Anybody have any questions for Mike Flaherty? I'm sorry,
I have
Michelle.
questions, but might not necessarily be for Mike.
Oh, sure.
So Chad, just so there's some clarification, typically what you need from someone in this situation is a timeline for repair or replacement.
Yep.
And in that timeline, it would have a list of things that they would do to address the situation of a hazardous building. And that's what we didn't receive is a timeline, because ultimately that would be the best for everyone. But then they also have to fulfill the timelines.
That is correct. And with plans, it can't be just a drawing of a house
with no kitchen.
I need to know trusses, the size of materials, header sizes, all stuff that if I was to go build that house, I know how to build that based off that information.
And the other thing that I think was of concern, the city doesn't then own this property. We're just tearing down the hazardous structure potentially, but it's still his property.
That's correct, Michelle. That's correct. So basically, what the city would have if the city spends money on this in a court action, and then after a court action to actually go onto the property and either raise the structure or maybe just board it up and make repairs just minimally sufficient so that it's not a hazard to the general public. Those costs are then allowed to be assessed against the property. So it becomes a special assessment, payable as a special assessment, but title to the property does not transfer to the city. The property owner still owns the property. It's just that there's a lien called a special assessment attached to that property that, he would have to pay. And eventually, if he doesn't pay it, it could go tax forfeited. Or when he sells the property, the city would be repaid that money if there's no mortgage or if we have priority to get payment.
And just one more question. So if we move forward with this, he would still have the ability to correct this after we file this. This is more because I had called earlier and mentioned that the timeline seems very quick, but I think what I'm hearing is the problem was communication. And this is to cement some type of timeline so the city and Mr. Corey have a plan in place for what's going to happen 3 months from now. Because I think the real issue is how long that building is left with holes in it. Am I understanding correctly why we're here at this point in time? Because
Yep.
we have gone much longer when working with homeowners, but typically they're giving us timelines to work off of. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And right now we have winter coming up on us. Every rainstorm that goes in there, it's just going to keep making the matters worse, and it's going to keep compounding.
Mr. Corey, you had something to say?
Yeah, I asked him about putting tarps and stuff on, and he said I couldn't do that because that would just be a temporary fix, and this isn't a temporary problem. I wanted to put them on to cover it up for rain, just so none got inside. He said no.
I told him he could put tarps onto the house. It is a temporary fix.
Yeah.
Just to get by until we come up with a plan, and nothing has been done.
You said most they could be up for is 2 weeks. Look at that cop's body cam. It's on there.
I don't recall that conversation. I just told you that you could put tarps on there.
So let's just assume now you can put tarps up there.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's what before we'd go in the house to do something and the cops would show up and say, we can't be in there. So it's like, how can we do something if we can't be in there?
You were explained at the time
By,
that you could go
yeah,
in
but
there and
two
do
different people
stuff to
telling
work
two
on it,
different
that you
things.
just could not live in the house.
So basically, we want to see something done with the house, you know,
Why?
and we want you to be safe while you're doing that. From my assumptions and basically this process, we need some type of communication with you showing that, you know, steps are being taken. And if that's getting tarps on the house, that's first step, right? Like get it temporarily waterproofed, get some plans together from a structural engineer or an architectural firm that can, you know, or if you have the wherewithal to draw those up and be able to calculate the load bearing structures, I think that would probably be suitable as well. You know, but something needs to be done with it, because if there's not something done with it, then right now we're taking action to move this process forward, because it will continue to deteriorate. I think you would agree with us on that.
Yeah.
So, you know, ultimately, as our city attorney stated, you know, the best solution here would be for you to get it fixed. You know, now whether you have the means or not, that's just, you know, that's not the issue here or what we're discussing. But what we are discussing is that we need something to show that you're making progress on it. And during that time, you can't be living in there because it's not safe for you.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I guess, you know, we'll go through the rest of this process here. If you have any other questions for us, now would be the time for it. If council has any other questions, George, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just one, regardless of what action we take tonight, there's still a 20-day window for anything.
It goes to court.
Before, okay, so what we do tonight, there's still 20 days. Mr. Corey, you said you're not living in the garage. Where are you living now?
Just here, whichever friend we can find.
Pardon?
Whichever friend lets us stay at their house.
Okay, okay. And I say, I'm sure you realize the action that we're doing is not looking to harm you, but looking to protect you. Because if you're in that house and something happens, there can be some very, very serious consequences, you know, to you and your friends or whatever it may be, because the house is unsafe. And I think we agree to that, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Mr. Corey, do you have anything else you wish to state, or does council have any more questions for the property owner? Do you have anything else, Mr. Corey?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Corey. We'll move on to the next step here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now give the opportunity for any other interested persons to be heard, provided, however, such testimony is limited to the issue presented. And you will have 2 minutes per person, not to exceed 10 minutes cumulatively. Does anybody else from the public wish to speak on this matter? Please. I will ask that you state your name and address.
I'm Renee Corey, 907 East Broadway. I'm very confused on like what, you know, like what I'm supposed to do. Obviously, I've never been in a fire before. I'm willing to work in any type of way, you know, possible with you guys or whatever. I want to do everything right, correct. I just need guidance. I've been in a car accident, and so I've had some brain injury. So sometimes it's a little hard, but Eric helps a lot with that. And, so much I wanted to say when you guys are talking. Now it's like I'm up here and I can't. I guess I did contact him with my social worker to make sure, because he said to contact him, but I really didn't understand what he wanted. And so I just had her ask like questions. And that, you know, and I can't really remember any of it. Sorry, I just get so nervous, my mind kind of goes blank. But we'll be making changes, and I'm just happy to hear that, because I thought that, like, just because, I mean, we had a fire that, like, they're just gonna take it away. And that, you know, it's like, this is my second house owning. His dad actually got it for us before he passed away, and, you know, he was gonna put a roof on and stuff, because that's why I didn't have insurance, because it was by as is. And it would really be like really devastating to lose it, you know. I guess I'm still like grieving about it. I haven't had much time to sit down and think logically, you know. I don't know what's gonna happen next, because I've heard so much from so many different people. But I'm glad that you guys could clear things up with us so we know what to do, the right things to do. Is there any any advice you guys could offer besides what you already have?
I'd say the biggest thing is communication with our staff. You know,
Just
Chad Summers has been trying to reach out to you and he hasn't gotten any action. So I think in this case, in general, we just need to see.
I have reached out to him.
Okay, yep. I mean,
Okay.
that's ultimately what we're asking for, is some communication.
Okay.
And since we haven't gotten any, we're moving forward on this process. So.
But I have.
Okay.
I mean, I've contacted him.
Sure.
But I mean, like, I thought he wanted an architect to check over everything, and he can't get anybody that fast. I mean, it was only 2 weeks. But,
So yes, we spoke. Your social worker did call me, but all it was is explain the same stuff that I've explained to you guys all the other times. That's all it was.
wait,
Nothing has changed.
I know, but I suffer from brain injury, so when and you didn't directly talk to us, but you said read the paper.
Okay, well.
But I mean, if it's all said and done in the paper, that's fine. I mean, I don't want to, you know, say.
Well, we're here tonight, and in this case, now we can be very clear about what the next steps are.
Okay.
So again, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Does anybody else from the public wish to speak on the matter? I'll ask again, does anybody from the public wish to speak regarding item 2.1, hazardous building located at 907 East 6th Street? And again, I will ask, does anyone from the public wish to speak regarding item 2.1, hazardous building located at 907 East 6th Street?
Mayor, could I ask a question, or just?
Okay, I'll close the hearing first and then you can. Okay. Since no one else from the public wishes to speak on the matter, I will now close the public hearing. Okay, additional questions of city staff and or city attorney on the proposed resolution and order. Go ahead, George.
Yes, question. What was the actual cause of the fire? I really didn't see nothing listed here. Someone want to say, or maybe the quarries know what was the cause of the fire, or Chad, if you have something.
I've heard a few stories. I don't know exactly what is the correct one, but I know I was told there was a torch and something to do with the attic.
And I think in general on this specific hearing, it doesn't necessarily matter how it was started, but if Chad's not, you know, he's not our fire inspector, so.
And was the home insured? I heard no.
I'd refer that to the owners.
She had stated it was not, George.
It was not okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Please, Pam.
Yes, is there a source for, is there a way people can get some help in writing up such a plan? Is there a place that people can go? A social department, a county, any place?
They were given multiple places that they could talk
Okay.
to, volunteer services. They
Okay.
have their social worker, county, city, and that is up to them to move forward with that.
Okay, so if they can go someplace and request assistance for writing this plan.
If they choose to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Steve.
Mr. Mayor, could I maybe get a little bit more of an understanding of the timeline? I heard 20 days and then it goes to court. What happens after that? Maybe our council could just give us the brief outline of what the timeline looks like.
Mike, could you touch on that again for us?
Sure, sure. So the 20-day time period is from the date that if the council were to issue the order tonight, you have to wait 20 days from the date that you serve Mr. Corey with the order. So the order won't probably be served today or tomorrow. It'll be served sometime soon. And then I think it's also important to note that after that 20 days expires, within the 20 days, Mr. Corey can file an answer, no different than any civil complaint filed in court. He could file an answer denying the allegation that the building is hazardous. If he doesn't file such a answer, then after 20 days, it will be deemed a default case. And the city will be able to pursue what's known as summary enforcement. In other words, after 20 days, Mr. Corey will no longer be able to challenge whether or not the building is hazardous, but the court will basically be able to order a default judgment. I think what I didn't mention that's important is the city can use discretion here. So if the city council issues the order and we serve the order on the property owner, and the property owner is making progress during the next 20 days at either selling the property or fixing the property or whatever, making progress toward removing the hazards, then the city can choose not to file with the court and continue to work with the property owner. And I think some of the people that were on council, specifically Michelle and George, previously, we've dealt with other issues where, we have given more time. But in those instances, the property owners in those cases were working with the city closely for, they were making timelines and hiring, contractors and giving specific plans and working through it. And if that happens during the next 20 days, the city could, in their discretion, even though you're adopting this order and authorizing it to go to court, we could choose to wait a little bit longer to give him some more time. But I think city staff's feeling here is that there hadn't been enough communication, and the fire and the condition of the property is quite bad. And so there's some concern here that the weather could, and Chad can speak to this, but there's some concern that the weather could make things worse, and that without that close working with city staff, that, we could end up 2 or 3 or 4 months from now and nothing's happened. So I think the important summary point here is that this is just the next step. You wait 20 days and then you have the right to file it with district court. If you choose to do that, the court will schedule a hearing in approximately 2 weeks, depending on the court's calendars. And then from that point, if the court issues an order at that time, the court in the text of its order, will give them more time. Typically, I've seen 30 or 45 days. And so then we've got to wait another 30 or 45 days before the city can do anything. And the judge's order, I usually draft the proposed order, and it gives the property owner the ability for that period, 30 or 45 days, to go in and do something. What we've seen in the past in certain cases, though, is, we'll wait several months, sometimes up to a year, and nothing will happen. And so the order, if you issue it tonight, is just the first step, but there'll be, like I said, 2 to 3 months, I think conservatively 2 to 3 months before the city can do anything. And that time period, the property owner will have the ability to make some progress and work with staff and provide that documentation and that feedback and that information to the city staff to let us know that this is in progress. And, you know, until we haven't really received that yet. And so I think the staff, you know, I'm summarizing staff's feeling on the matter, but, you know, their feeling was, well, if the building is that bad and it's quite bad, can we really wait, you know, 2 more months when we're not even receiving correspondence from the property owner at all? You know, if we wait 2 more months to start the process, then we've got to wait another 2 to 3 months to actually do something. So then you're looking at, you know, it's even further. And so this is just the first step tonight. Steve, does that answer your question, or am I rambling on here?
No, you're good. Yeah, that helped clarify things. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion and all, or questions? No? Okay. Any deliberation or discussion on the resolution itself? I think in general, we all would agree this is a tough situation. But we would all agree that that house is unsafe right now as well. So with that, City Council may make a motion and take action on the resolution in order.
I would motion to adopt the attached resolution.
Second.
We have a motion from George, a second from Michelle. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Moving on to item 5.2 under the new business. And this is the city equipment certificate issuance.
Excuse me.
Mayor and Council, we have Christine Hogan with us tonight from Baker Tilly with a short presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's a delight to be here tonight to present the sale results of the city's equipment certificates earlier today. If I could just start with just a quick overview of the interest rate environment, because it's pretty important of what's going on a lot in this last year. This particular graph shows, it's a bond buyer, it shows the movement over 5 years in interest rates. And you can see, which is pretty dramatic. You can see from earlier this year, actually February until now, interest rates have gone up on a 20-year municipal debt at a full 2%. So just a little snapshot. We know it's been a challenging year and much different than the environment we've been used to the last few years. Actually, this week, the Fed increased the interest rates by 75 basis points, 0.75%. That's the 6th interest rate increase this year, with an expectation they'll have another one in December. So on behalf of the city, we took bids this morning at 10:30. We took bids for the $3,185,000 general obligation certificate indebtedness. The proceeds are to be used for the purchase of various equipment. It had a 10-year repayment term. We estimated a true interest cost in September of 3.188. Last week, we updated rates, assuming guesstimating an estimate of 3.85. And the actual results that we received today were very favorable at 3.56. A city received, the equipment certificates received 10 bids. The lowest bid was received from Northland Securities. The actual result, like I said, was 3.56 of a true interest cost. The bids range from the lowest of 3.56 to the highest of 3.83. Equipment certificate sale, the city received a rating by Moody's. The rating was a AA1. And a bond rating is a measure of the financial strength of the city. The higher the rate, the less likely the default. So a AA1 was excellent. Just to get an idea, 3 main rating agencies are Moody's, S&P, and Fitch, and it'll show you the highest rating to the lowest. And you can see that the city received AA1, which is the second highest rating that you can get. Some of the comments that Moody's had in their, they provide a rating report, an opinion. The strengths of the city were the regional economic center with the institutional presence, robust operating reserves, low debt burden, and they had just minimal credit challenges, was low residential wealth, and for the rating category, and that's specifically due to the large student population and elevated pension burden. Additional comments that the city had, that Moody's had on the city, they felt the city will continue to benefit from its regional hub due to the strong financial management and conservative budgeting practices. They had robust financial reserves and liquidity. Overall low debt burden offset by elevated pension burden. Fixed costs are 11% of operating revenue. And the number of enterprise funds all had more than 365 days cash on hand. One additional Moody's, what has Moody's added, and actually all the rating agencies have added this year, it's been in the works for a while, is environmental, social, and governance, which is ESG, and that a lot of people have been hearing a lot about that. So the city was rated on each of them. The environment is was a E3. I think they're 1 to 3. That was the one, due to the city's location on the Mississippi River, but they identified that it was mitigated by the city's flood risk and the Army Corps engineer that they put in place in 2021. The social, they gave a rating of 2, and that's just metrics of resident incomes, wealth, education. And then the governance was a positive G1, which again was really a reflection of the city's strong financial management, conservative budgeting practices. So overall, the city was giving a rating score of 2, with the highest being 1, so it's very commendable. So we would recommend that the city award the general obligation certificates of indebtedness to Northland Securities at a low bid of 5.611. It's been absolute pleasure working with the team, and they did a great job with the rating presentation, and I think had excellent results.
Thank you. Any questions? Michelle first.
No, I was just going to make a motion. So
okay.
By all means.
If I could just make a comment and highlight these positive statements by Moody's. Now, this directly impacts the interest rate and lower these positive things lowers the interest rate, right? It lowers our expense. So I just want to reiterate, and I want to thank our staff. I want to thank Jessica in particular with keeping these reserves. The word here was robust. That was used. Mm-hmm. Keeping us in low debt, not high debt. These things pay off today. So I'm thankful for where we're at. So that needs to be said. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution to accept the sale of the equipment certificates and to continue the contract with Baker Tilly.
Second. Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I did have one comment.
Yeah, please.
Thank goodness we did it today before those rates keep going up. Let me just say that.
Then going back to the petitions, requests, and communications, item 3.1 is caroling by candlelight requests for December 2nd.
Make a motion to approve that request.
Second.
Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.2 is a request for handicap parking to be added on 3rd Street.
Make a motion to introduce the ordinance and waive the fee.
Second.
Motion from Michelle, a second from Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.3 is a sign request for the River Arts Alliance.
Make a motion to approve that request.
Second.
We have a motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.4 is the request for the Cabin Fever Dash 5K and 10K on February 11th.
Make a motion to approve that license agreement.
Second.
We have a motion from Michelle, a second from Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Under unfinished business, item 4.1 is to award the contract for the wastewater treatment plant preliminary treatment building upgrades. The one bid was from Waukesha Construction with a bid of $2,559,000 and an engineer's estimate of $2,760,000.
Make a motion to adopt the attached resolution awarding the contract to Waukesha Construction Company.
Second.
We have a motion from Michelle, a second from Eileen. Any discussion? George?
I'm very glad to see Winona, the contractor, is getting the bid for this job. It's good to see that.
Thank you, George. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.2 is the proposed 2023 South Baker Street reconstruction project.
Make a motion to adopt the attached resolution and order the improvements and advertising for bid.
Motion from Michelle, second from Aaron. Any discussion? Eileen?
As I mentioned last week, I really want this to happen. I don't want to be the one to delay it. However, just because of how much the estimated cost to the folks along there is going to be, I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Eileen. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Under new business, item 5.1 is to set the recess meeting to certify results of the general election. And the meeting would be held this Thursday, November 10th at 11 a.m.
Move to set the meeting would be in order.
Second.
Motion from George, second from Michelle. Is that you? Okay, from Michelle. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Moving on to item 5.3 is the residual equity transfer for the City Building Improvements Fund.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution, to adopt the attached resolution. I was reading the wrong one.
Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Any discussion? Steve? Please, absolutely.
Jessica, is this just simply closing out an account and moving $57? There's nothing else here.
That's correct. It's just closing out the account and moving.
No
the
policy
cash.
change, no.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 5.4 is the residual equity transfer for the Metro Plains Housing Fund.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Steve, any questions?
Same thing, Jessica?
Yes, this is simply closing the fund and transferring the cash.
Cool, thank you.
Any other comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 5.5 is the new administrative services agreement with Mission Square.
Make a motion to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute this agreement.
Second.
Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Any discussion, George?
Yes, Chad, could you just touch on this a little bit? I see you're the only signature on here.
Mayor and council, this is really, in a sense, a name change for our vendor. We have a deferred compensation plan for employees for pre and post tax retirement savings options. And now it used to be through a company called ICMA, and the name is now changed to Mission Square. So really it's just a in a sense, a cleanup of an agreement that we've already approved.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And item 5.6 is to provide live streaming at the Bud King Ice Arena.
Make a motion, direct the mayor and city clerk to execute this agreement.
Second.
Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. Michelle.
These are my favorite kind of partnerships because it says there's no financial responsibility for the city at all. Nice job.
Thank you, Michelle. Eileen?
My question was along those lines, just to clarify that there's no cost to the city, and also just to, so this is all subscriber based for folks who want to watch this.
Mayor and council, it is subscriber based. And I know that we received a question earlier today. I just want to clarify as well. For some members of the community, they're also used to like HBC, for example, coming and recording a game. They still can do that. And so if you want to think of that traditional means of maybe watching a high school game, HBC is allowed to still come in and broadcast. So it's both subscriber based, primarily for those that use Bud King, and then those that may locally want to use what we call traditional means. HBC still is allowed to come in and record.
I'm thinking grandma and grandpa up in the cities kind of deal. So yeah. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.1 is council concerns.
We'll start with Councilmember Borzakowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to congratulate Kevin Creeley, Brad Schaefer, Pete Woodworth, Bob Tim Jr., and Robert Searcy on their induction into the Winona Senior High School Wrestling Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all those people. And also, I'd like to just say thank you to all of our veterans. I know there's one out here for sure tonight. There could be more, but Jim is a very well honored veteran, served our country well. And I'd like to just thank all our veterans as we begin to honor them this Friday on Veterans Day. Thank you to all of them.
Thank you, George. Councilmember Alexander.
Happy Veterans Day. It's an important day. We should all think of it that day. I would remind people to vote. I assume George was going to do it, but since he didn't, please vote. And then just a pre-thank you to all those locations and people that are volunteering, because it takes an army to make a small election like ours happen in a town this size. So thank you to them.
Thanks, Michelle. Councilmember Iden.
I would ditto what Councilwoman Alexander has said about the election. It does take a lot of work and a lot of cooperation. And it's really, this is my first year seeing it from somewhat close up. And I'm really impressed with the way things are going in Winona. That's all.
Thank you, Pam. Councilmember Mueller.
Yeah, echoing what everyone else has said, vote tomorrow. Veterans Day. Thank you to all of our veterans, who have served. And a happy anniversary to my husband, who is definitely not watching this meeting.
Thank you, Eileen. Councilmember Young.
A second train update. A week ago or so, there was a meeting on the East End at Sobieski Park. 50 plus people attended. Some elected officials and a lot of members of the public engaged and asked questions. And I think there was some increased learning. Also last week, I attended a meeting of the Great River Rail Commission in Red Wing, learned a few things that would be interesting. Construction starts in just over a year. I think in winter of 24 would be done by 2025. But the second train may start significantly earlier than that. So they're trying to, they think they can bring this train in even without that construction being done. Just a quick review of the construction. It would be upgrading. It would be creating sidings so trains can pass. Automated switching, bringing safety. The last thing we need is a train derailment or a serious train derailment in our city. So it would bring some increased safety. And this would be a second daily passenger train between the Twin Cities and Chicago, okay? Learned something interesting. that train is actually quite busy. Sometimes it actually sells out. So there is some need for this. And the negotiations were completed when the second train was negotiated for by CP. A possible third train was also negotiated. So should this become popular, we could even bring in a third daily train to Winona. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Pam, please.
Could I ask Steve a question? Sure. There was one question I didn't ask at that train meeting, and it's been bothering me ever since.
Okay.
Is there going to be a dining car?
Here's what I can tell you. It's actually going to be a little shorter train, and this is a good thing. So I'm going to guess probably not. Okay. This is what I've heard and what I've understood. My understanding is not perfect. The current Amtrak train is typically 9 cars long and it blocks Huff. This second train, okay, this new second train that's coming will be 7 cars long and will not block Huff. Yeah. I suspect it won't have a dining car, but I don't know for sure. They're struggling with equipment to bring together equipment, but okay, that's what I know.
Okay. Thank you both. Council Member Rupinski.
None this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
And then moving on to the consent agenda, there are 5 items. Approval of the minutes from October 17th, a final adoption of an ordinance to increase the liquor license fees, an ordinance to prohibit parking on Sanborn Street, a claim against the city by Diane Vaugin, and a claim by the city for damage to a city vehicle.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion from Michelle, second from Eileen. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
The time being 7:26 and there being no further business to come before the council this evening, I move we adjourn.
Second. Motion from Michelle, second from George. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.